The sun hung like an accusation over Phoenix. It didn't warm, it punished. Beneath that heat, a red Jaguar I-Pace cut through the city like a vein of color that didn't belong. Behind the wheel, Elena Travers drove in silence. No music, no distractions. Just the soft rhythm of tires on baked asphalt and the slow drift of air through a half-lowered window. Her shirt sleeves were rolled to the elbow, watch glinting faintly beneath the glare. She looked relaxed, controlled, but every movement had weight. Elena wasn't headed anywhere in particular. The mission was over. The encryption layers dismantled, the cartel server collapsed. The funds had cleared, her cover retired. For the first time in months, she was above ground. No shadows, no back doors, no burner phones. And for that, she had bought herself something clean, something precise, something hers, the Jaguar. Red like rebellion, quiet like confidence, no loan, no favor. No badge required to sign the title, and that, apparently, was the problem. 2 blocks from the freeway merge, a black and white patrol car slid in behind her. No rush, no sirens, just presence. 2 men inside, watching, gauging. The cruiser shadowed her move for move, like a predator testing a mark. Then came the flash, blue and red, loud even in silence. Elena exhaled once, turned down the jazz and pulled over. Smooth, signal, full stop. She knew the routine. She had trained people. On this routine, hands visible, eyes forward, no sudden motion, the officers approached. One was built like a wall, Rick Landon, sun-reddened, tired-looking. The other younger, Chase Burke, grinning already, too sure of how this would end. License and registration, Landon said, flat, like it was already a burden. Elena answered, evenly. License in my purse, registration in the glove compartment, reaching slowly. Go ahead, Burke said, shifting his stance to look inside. She moved carefully. No tension, no attitude, just precision. They barely glanced at the papers. You drive this? Burke asked, raising an eyebrow. Picked it up yesterday, Elena said. Celebration. What for? Landon cut in. Federal contract, she replied. Cyber intelligence, nothing I can disclose. But it wasn't. A question. Not really. They had already decided. The color of the car, the skin on her hands, the zip code they were in. None of it added up in their heads. We've had some reports of luxury cars stolen in this area, Landon said, already gesturing to Burke. Mind stepping out? You've got the paperwork, Elena answered. Nothing stolen here. That wasn't a suggestion, Burke said. The smirk was gone now. What replaced it was more dangerous. Cold, authoritative. She stepped out, hands visible, voice calm. You're profiling, she said, quiet but firm. And you're doing it without cause. Landon didn't blink. Turn around. Hands on the hood. One breath, just long enough for her to let them know she saw everything. Then she complied. The cuffs were too tight. Not enough to bruise, but enough to signal. This wasn't about law. This was about control. Burke rifled through her center console like he was already claiming it. You all think the rules don't apply when you've got a new car and a LinkedIn account, he muttered. Elena didn't look at him. You never checked the plate, she said, voice precise. Never ran the tags. You positioned the tow truck before you even unholstered. They ignored her. Across the street, the truck reversed slowly, practiced like a scene they'd rehearsed. The red Jaguar rose like a trophy on the steel ramp. Snap, snap, Burke took 2 more photos. Not for evidence, for sale. Landon removed the cuffs without ceremony. No arrest, he said. Not today, but don't push your luck. Elena adjusted her cuffs, her jaw set. Then, with a tone that cut sharper than a shout, Clock's ticking, officers. They didn't hear the signal go out. They didn't see the silent ping from the Jaguar's embedded system, GPS, audio, and VIN trace, now live and mirrored in a Homeland field console. They didn't see the room light up 3 states away. A technician glance at the screen and mutter, "She took the bait." Because this wasn't just a car, and Elena Travers wasn't just a woman behind the wheel. She was the edge of the knife they never saw coming. Elena kept her gaze steady on the rearview mirror. The lights behind her flashed in cycles, red, blue, red again. The cruiser didn't move aggressively. It didn't need to. The message was already clear. She signaled, slowed, and eased the Jaguar to the curb. The jazz faded beneath her fingertips. Her posture didn't shift. Her hands stayed at 10 and 2. They approached. Landon on the left, Burke on the right. Landon's face was unreadable, like a man already tired of the paperwork he hadn't written yet. Burke wore a smile that was more performance than courtesy. Neither asked why she'd been stopped. They didn't need to. The car answered that for them. "License and registration," Landon said. Elena nodded. "Wallet's in my purse. Glove box for the registration." "Slow," Burke added. He leaned closer, trying to catch a glimpse inside the cabin. His eyes weren't on her hands. They were on the stitched leather, the dash, the watch on her wrist. She moved with the patience of someone who understood exactly what they were looking for and how wrong they were. They took the documents like evidence from a scene that didn't exist. Landon didn't even read the name before passing them to Burke. "You buy this car?" Burke asked. "Yes," Elena replied. "Yesterday." "Cash?" he pressed, like the answer couldn't possibly be legal. "After a federal contract," she said evenly. "Cyber intel." "That what pays for Jaguars in this part of town now?" Landon asked, folding his arms. The question wasn't a question. It was a statement in camouflage. Then came the pivot. "We've had reports of stolen luxury vehicles nearby." Elena's jaw set. "You have the paperwork." "Just step out," Burke interrupted. "We'll clear it up quick." "This isn't procedure," she said. "This is profiling." "That a complaint, ma'am?" Landon asked. "Or just attitude?" She opened the door, slowly, deliberately, no sharp moves. Her body language was calm, but it wasn't submissive. She kept her voice firm, her hands visible. "What you're doing right now isn't law enforcement, it's theater." "Turn around," Landon ordered. She paused one breath, enough to make it clear she saw through them. Then she turned, hands on the hood. The cuffs clicked, just tight enough to send a message, not about control, about ownership, about who belonged behind a car like this and who didn't. Burke moved to the center console. No gloves, no warrant. "You all play the part well," he muttered. "Laptop, government badge, little speech about contracts. Then we find a gun under the seat and suddenly it's another story." Elena didn't look at him. "You skipped protocol, never checked the VIN, never called in dispatch. The tow truck was already waiting." "You suggesting we're crooked?" Landon asked. "I'm suggesting you're sloppy," Elena replied. He stepped in closer, voice low. "You think that badge makes you special?" "No," she said. "I think it means you'll have to explain every second of this stop when it goes federal." His hand flexed at his side. Not a punch, not yet, just the ghost of one. "Watch your tone," he muttered. "You act like we're the ones out of place." Burke slammed the center console shut. "Nothing in here," he called out. "Figures. Probably stripped down before we pulled her." Across the street, the impound truck began backing toward the curb. The driver never looked at the officers, just engaged the winch. The red Jaguar tilted upward, steel clanking against chrome. Then came the snapshots. Burke again. 2 quick angles of the plates, the interior, the VIN. They weren't for evidence. They were for inventory. The car was already earmarked for movement. Landon unhooked the cuffs. "You're lucky," he said. No charges, no record, but next time, try to blend in. She didn't reply. She adjusted her sleeves, reset her stance. Then quietly, clock's ticking. They didn't ask what she meant. They didn't notice the shift, but 3 states away, her signal had already been received. Homeland servers lit up, the trace began, and for the first time in months, the bait had been taken. The game was on. Elena sat in the back seat of an unmarked Homeland vehicle, the door closing behind her with a soft click. Sarah Dunn, her partner and analyst, was already tapping at the encrypted console on her lap. No words passed between them, but the hum of electronics filled the small compartment like a shared heartbeat. By the time Elena slid into a chair at their makeshift office, a dim, windowless suite behind a logistics warehouse, Sarah was speaking softly. They didn't run the plates, never logged the stop, no dispatch call. Towed truck was in position before cuffs were buckled. Elena nodded slowly. Standard impound racket, she said. Target the driver, grab the vehicle, no oversight. She crossed her arms. Plenty of luxury vehicles stolen, moved through. Cartel front channels. Red Jag won't be an exception. Fingers danced across the screen. A map appeared. 5 blinking red dots clustered in satellite impound lots and shadow garages across 3 Arizona counties. These, Sarah said, is how they work the cycle. Grab, tow, title, flip. 37 luxury SUVs, all black or Hispanic drivers. Not one prosecution. Her voice was cold but not surprised. Elena leaned forward. They move them quick. The map updated chronology. Grave sites of cars had a life cycle. 6 hours to tow, 12 to storage, 48 hours to auction. Sarah, pull VINs from the Phoenix fleet, Elena ordered. Scan registered titles across the Southwest Shell Company market. The screen latched onto one entry, Panama registered Shell, red I-Pace, no reserve, and added it to an Alt-E. Chain tagged for same handler format. Her watch beeped once. Vehicle is pinging live in impound East Phoenix Lot 7. Sarah tapped in. They moved it again. GPS dropped for a few blocks. Elena exhaled. Someone's waiting on this. Not for parts, for proof. The dragnet narrowed. Elena filled a black folder with screen captures, VIN logs, timestamps, geofences. Bring Elaine Bryce in, she said, voice cutting through the hum. We need internal review initiated. Sarah hesitated. She'll ask why I bypassed protocol. You tell her, because these officers are running scripts from a precinct racketeering playbook. On my watch. No leave, no cover. We go full exposure or we bury it. Elaine Bryce arrived 30 minutes later. Lean, professionally courteous, but with the aura of someone who built her career by cutting through the bull. When Elena laid the folder on the table, Elaine didn't flinch. She scanned the documents quickly, thumbs flipping through logs and mapping algorithms. This is extensive, she said. I need internal access to precinct hold logs and DMV anomalies. Access is already flagged, Elena replied. I ghost deleted from Homeland, but if you pull extended queries, you'll see. Dashboard reports on impound seizures gone dark for over a year. Elaine's eyes narrowed. Ghost deleted? Elena nodded. Yeah, after I turned them in. Elaine lifted her head. Let me guess. They deleted your profile? I'm not in the system anymore, Elena said softly. They're preparing to make me a non-person. Elaine considered her. That makes it harder, but that also means they had to go institutional to cover it. This isn't just rogue. Precinct officers. This is coordinated. Elena's posture tightened. And it's not just Phoenix. The same shell buyer log surfaced in Dallas, Houston, Tucson, and other Southwest states. I flagged it through Homeland's dark intel nodes. It's a network of corrupted precincts. Elaine leaned in. And what about federal level? Elena tapped her earpiece. Director Vernon Hale signed off on privilege clearance for Caleb Stroud 2 years ago. No review. That's unusual. And I have a feed showing live signals from Stroud's personal touch-tone lines matching the shell company handlers we've traced. Elaine's lips tightened. We're talking about a cartel front network run by a decorated precinct captain, approved and shielded at the highest levels. Elena's jaw set. Yeah, and they set me up to bait me into the trap. The red Jag, clean car, clean contract, but also a trigger. They knew I'd expose the system. A low chuckle came from Sarah. That's fucking brilliant. And sad. Elaine folded her hands. What's our next move? They have no suspicion I'm compromised yet, Elena said. We let the car flow one node further. That's where they'll bring in whoever owns the operation. We find them, we trace them to Stroud. Then Hale. Elaine stood. Let's do it. I'll initiate subpoenas for DMV title transfers. Subpoena, shell company documents. Sarah, once that vehicle clears east side, ping off-grid antennas between 72 and 96 hours. I'll inform internal affairs, but only as cover. No leaks outside this room. Elena's lips curved in the first genuine half-smile. Clocks ticking. 2 days later, they monitored a satellite feed. The car lifted off from Lot 7 in East Phoenix, moved to a storage yard off a private access road near Tucson. A drone. Signal showed the Jaguar locked inside a fenced compound, 2 municipal plate SUVs parked, neither state registered, and uniformed handlers doing routine maintenance. Elena tapped her phone. Sarah, geofence license plate recognition. I want dispatch audio, drone logs, all times. Sarah pulled up a feed, masked figures with handheld scanners scanning VIN plates, logbooks being stamped NA. Timers counting. Down. Strange, Sarah said. VIN scan time is 2 seconds, no video logs. Elena processed it. They're smart. They've coded internal flags to mark this car non-evidence pre-approved rotation, effectively bypassing audit rails. She glanced over at Elaine, who looked grim. Hale knows what he's doing. They watched as the Jaguar sat inside the compound, untouched, protected. There's one moment, Sarah said, where a municipal SUV parks too close. Driver steps out, badge on side, scans rear window inside. It's inside the car. Elena's eyes sharpened. A bug, she clicked away. So someone is monitoring them. They got equipment in the car before it was seized. Elaine exhaled. That's a whole other layer. Elena nodded. We might have more than a seizure ring. We might have a dome of surveillance. Elaine pulled up internal messages, flagged through Homeland's intrusion detection system. A disabled backdoor jumper to ERA systems, flagged as code C-Red Override. Elena's mind reeled. That code was only supposed to be used. Once in a foreign op in 2016, Hale authorized it for Stroud. Elaine cleared her throat. This goes straight to the Inspector General and possibly Senate oversight. But we leaked that internal, okay? Elena closed her eyes momentarily. We're going to need more than digital logs. We need a confession witness, someone who can place this conductor in a room, on record. Later that night, Elena sat alone, at the safe house, replaying dashcam footage from the tow truck operator, a mid-50s man in a grease-stained vest. He'd put in a request to Elaine after seeing the drive. The footage showed Landon and Burke discussing the new red Jag before even approaching. Elaine verified it. He'll testify? Elena rewatched the timestamp. Yes, she whispered. Because he's not corrupt. And he's not connected. And he's scared. She leaned forward. I need him prepped. We'll coordinate with IG protection. Her phone buzzed. A short email. Vehicle moved into underground facility near Nogales, edge of cartel territory. Elena began typing. Maps, feed, cross-ref satellite overlays. We're going in. She paused. Sarah, set up a secure line with Elaine. Give the trucker the protection flight details. We move as soon as the car hits. Sarah's reply. On it. Elena leaned back. The hum of the air conditioner went soft. In the corner of the room, a small red light blinked. Signature of the Jaguar still live, miles away feeding telemetry. It pulsed steadily like a heartbeat. She whispered to the dark, "Let's see who moves first." The satellite feed over. Nogales froze for just under 4 seconds, enough to make Elena Travers lift her head. "Buffering at 2:04 a.m., Sarah said quietly, fingers moving across the thermal grid. "Vehicle no longer visible. Tunnel suspected." Elena stood. "They buried it." Elaine Bryce was already on the other line. "You're not going to like this. Internal Affairs flagged Caleb Stroud for oversight review 6 months ago. The IA report was pulled before it reached committee. Source file deleted. Guess who signed the purge?" Elena answered without blinking. "Vernon Hale." Elaine's voice hardened. "We have a corruption vector, and now it had a name. The operation wasn't local anymore. Phoenix was just the entry wound." Elena stared at the digital overlay of counties lit in heat signatures and data breaches. Each flash represented a missing vehicle, a mismatched VIN, a silence in radio logs, places where protocol didn't just lapse. It was rewritten. "This isn't impound fraud," Sarah said. "This is trafficking infrastructure built into law enforcement systems." Elena's voice was calm, but steel edged her vowels. "And they used me to validate it. The Jag wasn't just a bait. It was their test run. If I pushed back and vanished, they'd know the shield worked. If I escalated, they'd watch how far I could go." Elaine returned with confirmation. Stroud authorized direct routing of 36 impound seizures to a holding shell linked to a fake insurance sub-branch in El Paso. On record, it looks like a safety auction. But the cars aren't listed anywhere else. They disappear after 48 hours. "Money trail?" Elena asked. "Bitcoin," Elaine replied. "And ghost wallets tied to campaign bundlers. These aren't officers pocketing cash. They're funneling profits into elections." There it was. The whole map shifted. Sarah's screen bled new color. "We just got a back ping from one of our silent tags. East Side Denver Precinct. Red Jag clone with identical VIN spotted in patrol. Lot for pending inspection. No arrest record, no intake sheet." Elena narrowed her eyes. "Same vehicle, repainted? Same frame," Sarah confirmed. "Different tags. They're creating duplicates now." Elena stood still for a moment. "Which means the real Jag is no longer a vehicle. It's a test asset. Every place it lands, every person who signs off, this network expands." She turned to Elaine. "We have to shut the clone node down. Denver's running federal cross-check now. We pull it clean or lose the chain." Elaine nodded. "I'll move a U.S. Marshal to secure the compound, but you're going to need a voice, a witness. No more data, no more footage. You need someone who puts a human face on the cost." Elena knew exactly who that was. Jordan Price, 19 years old, walked into the IG holding room like someone twice his age. He didn't slump. He didn't run. He carried a folder filled with letters, photos, and one handwritten note. "They pulled me over a block from my job," he said. "Said the plates looked off. My mom saved for that car 2 years. They said it was impounded. Never showed us paperwork." Elena asked the one question that mattered. "Did they search you?" Jordan nodded. "Emptied my backpack, my lunch, my work gloves, even my ID. Officer told me I fit a pattern." But he never ran the plate. He looked up. "They never called it in. I know because the radio was off. And I asked. 3 times, Elaine whispered to Elena. "This is the fracture line." Jordan slid one document across the table. "They took my car, and 2 weeks later my friend saw it on Instagram. Repainted, different wheels, new tags, being sold. I screen recorded it." He looked at both women. "Is this why no one answered our report? Because they knew?" Elena took the footage. "Yes," she said, "and we're going to make it public, but we'll need you under protection." Jordan didn't flinch. "As long as they don't get away with it." That same night, the safe house was pinged, external signal breach. Elena's screen lit with a coded warning. Stroud has moved, Elaine patched in. He's gone silent. No digital movement. Homeland files redacted. We may lose track if he crosses into cartel zones. Elena's reply was quiet. He won't. The last breadcrumb came from a former cartel broker turned informant in Tucson. Whispered into a recorder. They only run these cars once the precinct signs are off. Until then, they belong to the state. After, they're currency. Currency. Of course, every car wasn't just stolen. It was a signature, a unit of exchange, political favors, campaign deals, even strategic silence. Each vehicle a vote, a bribe, a replacement for what actual money couldn't legally touch. Elena stared at the tracker. The red Jaguar, real one, had disappeared from the map. Not because it stopped transmitting, but because it had moved outside, recognized authority lines. It was now flagged as an extra-jurisdictional diplomatic asset. They weren't just using it. They were laundering federal authority through impound. And Stroud, he had one more move left. Elena knew it. She looked at the map. He'll try to move it out of state. Maybe under a seizure for training clause. Elaine gritted her teeth. If he signs that off, it's legally untouchable. Then we cut. Him off before he files it, Elena said. She turned to Jordan. You ready to go public? She asked. He nodded. I was ready the moment they took my name off the report. 2 days. That's how long they had before the final handoff. Stroud had filed an obscure clearance request. Interagency vehicle acquisition, training use only. It gave him full federal shield, just long enough to route the red Jaguar to a fake Homeland division operating out of New Mexico. From there, it would disappear into private hands. It was the last move in a long game of legal laundering, and he was almost home free. But Elena Travers didn't wait for permission. She stood before the IG oversight team. 8 agents, 3 monitors, and 1 lone voice on video from D.C. Elaine Bryce briefed the room. We have proof of a pattern of seizures conducted under false suspicion, coordinated by officers who never logged arrests, never issued tickets, and never filed reports. She paused. These vehicles didn't go to auction. They were rerouted. Elena stepped forward. We've confirmed 42 VINs, all linked to either shell entities, off-books precinct handlers, or routed via forged training permits. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. The data hit harder than any speech. She clicked the first photo, a 19-year-old's Honda Civic, seized, never cited, now owned by a real estate firm linked to a former sheriff's brother. Next slide. A black Escalade, owned by a pastor, impounded, no paperwork, now registered to a political donor in Flagstaff. Then came the final slide, the red Jaguar. This one, Elena said, was supposed to disappear tomorrow. The room was silent. Elaine leaned forward. We're requesting immediate suspension of Captain Caleb Stroud, seizure of all files under his authorization, and opening a joint inquiry with Homeland's internal tribunal. The voice from D.C. answered flatly. Approved. Outside, the plan moved into place. Sarah Dunn monitored drones circling the New Mexico training site. Jags on site, 3 handlers, no badges, all plain clothes. Elena tightened her coat. Local press? 3 outlets. We leaked the testimony. They'll publish within the hour. Jordan Price sat quietly in the back of the van, hands folded. He didn't ask what came next. He'd already said enough. They wanted me to think I was crazy, he said. Like I imagined it. Like no one would believe a teenager with a lunchbox. Elena glanced back at him. They underestimated the wrong person. The convoy arrived at the compound just before dawn. Elena, Elaine, 2 federal marshals, and a court clerk. The front gate wasn't locked. Inside, the red Jaguar sat under canvas, parked in perfect condition. Elena pulled the cover. The vehicle gleamed in early morning light, unchanged, unmistakable. But it wasn't alone. Stacked beside it were 4 other vehicles, BMWs, Audis, each registered under Homeland's interagency codes. They tried to mass-convert impounds into diplomatic fleets, Elaine muttered. Elena opened the driver's, sighed. Under the seat was a voice recorder. She pressed play, and Stroud's voice came through, half laughing, clipped from a conversation with someone unknown. "Let 'em whine about protocol. They'll never trace a car once it's on the training manifest. It's clean money, safer than coke, and looks better parked outside a donor gala." Elaine raised an eyebrow. He admitted it. Elena turned to the clerk. "You heard?" "I heard," she said, holding up the federal warrant. "This facility is now under seizure. All assets are frozen." They moved quickly. Marshals tagged each vehicle. Sarah uploaded the footage. By 10 a.m., the story broke online. First in Arizona, then national red cars, blue badges, black money. It caught like fire. Stroud was arrested later that evening. Calm. Buttoned shirt. No resistance. "You're making a mistake," he said. "This is above your pay grade." Elena looked him straight in the eye. "You were always the system's favorite, but you forgot who reads the logs." He turned away. No words. Elaine's voice came over comms. "Hale's next. His clearance was revoked an hour ago." That night, Elena returned to her small apartment. The Jaguar was there, towed back, verified, cleaned, and untouched. Her name on the registration. Her keys on the counter. She opened a drawer and pulled out a tape, a voicemail, from her father. His voice crackled through the static. "They can take your job. They can take your car. But not your voice. Not your damn voice, Ellie. Use it." She sat in silence for a moment, then walked outside, got into the Jaguar, and started the engine. No sirens behind her, just the city, finally quiet, and one woman, reclaiming the road. The badge cracked, but the voice endured. There was no applause, no parade, just a press conference and a wall of microphones. Elaine Bryce stood at the podium, her words measured. "We have confirmed systemic abuse of vehicle impound procedures. Multiple precincts in Arizona and beyond were involved in falsifying reports and laundering government property under the guise of interagency transfers. This was not a failure of policy. It was a deliberate manipulation of power." Next to her, Elena Travers stood silent. She wasn't there to perform. She was there to be seen, by every girl who ever got pulled over and knew she didn't deserve it, by every person whose silence had been mistaken for consent, and by every officer who still thought the shield made them untouchable. Jordan Price's testimony aired that night, a clean-cut kid with a calm voice and eyes too old for his age. "They told me the car was stolen. They said I didn't belong in it. But we paid for that car. We worked for it, and they took it anyway." The clip went viral. By morning, Back Not Yours had trended across platforms. 1,000 new stories flooded in, photos, dash cam clips, affidavits, not just from Arizona, from Detroit, from Miami, from Fresno. Each one an echo of the same truth, that systems don't need guns to steal, just silence and paperwork. Congress requested a federal review of impound protocols. Homeland launched an internal audit. Director Vernon Hale resigned without statement. Stroud's trial was set within the month. He never pled guilty. But his voice on tape spoke louder than any lawyer. The red Jaguar, now impounded as evidence, sat quietly in a federal lot, untouched, unclaimed. Until one morning, a letter arrived. Clearance granted. Vehicle released. Name on title reinstated. Elena picked it up alone, no escort, no press. She sat behind the wheel, turned the key, and listened. Not to the engine, but to the quiet. The kind of quiet that came when a long storm finally passed. She drove through the city like she did that first. Hands relaxed, windows open, But this time, the silence didn't feel threatening. It felt earned. At a red light, a young officer glanced over, saw her, recognized her. He nodded, respectful, careful. She didn't smile, but she met his gaze. He looked away, first. Back at home, she opened a drawer filled with things she once thought she'd lost: her Homeland credentials, her father's voice message, her own reflection. Elena wasn't proud. She was tired. But she wasn't finished. She joined a new review board, unarmed, unpaid, and unstoppable. Civilian oversight. Not for headlines, for record-keeping. Because the truth doesn't just survive in reports. It survives in repetition. And for the first time in a long time, she slept with the windows open. No alarms, no scans, just the hum of a city that was finally being watched, not by the system, but by its people.